Hey everybody, how are you today? So grateful to be here with you today. Nisha here with Insightful Moments with Nisha again for Nisha's Network. So if you are joining us via YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe and hit share. We really appreciate the support. We bring valuable information every week, something you should know, someone you should know, and some things you should hear about and know about and learn and glean and even maybe sometimes products that you may want to go and purchase or books you may want to go and purchase and all the other exciting things that we have to offer. But today, our topic today is substance use or substance abuse, the road to recovery. And I am privileged to share with you guys again that everyone knows that I'm the director of Heart Life Ministries, and we have a recovery program. And it has been such a moment of grace, I'm going to say, not just for the community of Heart Life Ministries, the community of the Will Grundy County, but the community of my family. And there are so many dynamics that people have in their lives that we have a tendency to just ignore or look over, or we say, oh, that's not in my family, or that doesn't pertain to me. But everybody should know that we all need recovery in some one way or the other. And I'm grateful that our arms and our branches have extended a little further for us to be able to go ahead and share the gift of freedom of recovery. And my special guest today is a very kind gentleman that I have the privilege of being a co-laborer with in the world of recovery. And that's none other than Mr. Jarret Burton. Hello, Jarret.
Hi, Nisha. Really thrilled to be here with you. This is very exciting. You have a great opening theme song, by the way. I meant to tell you that when I was watching the earlier episodes. I love it.
Thank you so much. Now you have a little bit of an echo, so I just want to make sure that there's no feedback in the background. Not sure why, but listen, Jarret is a breath of fresh air for our particular recovery program. We both have recovery programs in the state of Illinois called ROSC, Recovery Oriented System of Care. And I just, before we get started into this conversation, I definitely would love for you to just introduce yourselves. Tell us where you're originally from and a little fun fact about you before we dive into the world of your story and how we can get others to recovery.
Sure. Well, I hope I'm not echoing too badly. Does that sound any
Good,
better?
good.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, I'm. My name's Jarret Burton. I am originally. I'm a Southern boy. I was actually born in Dallas, Texas. All my family is from the South, and we moved up to the Chicago area when I was about 12 years old. And then kind of moved around a bunch, but always kept coming back here. So this is where I decided to kind of put down roots. Um, some fun facts about me: I have worked in a dozen different fields before I found this field. Um, everything from I worked in advertising for a little bit. One of my favorite jobs, I was a executive producer for WGN Radio in Chicago for about 6 years, which was a amazing experience. That was one of my first professional jobs
Wow.
out of college. And then I also did jobs to get along, right? I did bartending for a number of years, which, we can get into a little bit later. But as someone who was struggling with substance use disorder, being a bartender is kind of a dangerous lifestyle. But, it was good experience. And the job that I work now is actually my very first job in this field. And I know people say this sometimes, but I know that it's the field for me because it does not feel like work ever. It really doesn't. It feels like a passion project. It feels like when I wake up in the morning, it's the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. So I feel like I just took kind of the scenic route, the long way around to get where I am now. So that's kind of the short Cliff's Notes version of me.
Oh, well, that's great to hear. Thank you so much. I didn't know you were a southern guy. I didn't realize that. There's always that southern hospitality, right? That they
Yes,
speak of.
exactly.
So, you know what? I want to start from the beginning of now you've had a very interesting, journey in terms of like your career and different things like
Mhm.
that. But I topic this today, substance use or substance abuse, probably because and road to recovery. Probably because in our meeting, state meeting yesterday, I heard someone share that there's a difference between recovery and sobriety. That was that was something. I had never heard anyone put it that way. But I want you to share your journey on the road to recovery. Maybe if you want to give us a little history and background of where you fit in regards to recovery and what you recovered from.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I'm a person in long-term recovery from substance use, very specifically opiates and alcohol. So those were my two big ones. But I tell people, I just liked getting out of my own head. So if you put something on a table in front of me, I would do it and then ask what it did afterwards. That was my kind of mindset, which was, just something to get me out of my own head. But I was kind of a late bloomer as far as that stuff goes. I have a lot of friends in recovery who will tell me that they started drinking or maybe they started smoking marijuana, at age 10, 11, something like that. I come from a family of alcoholics. So my parents, it fortunately skipped them, but my grandparents, both sets, had some severe chronic alcoholism. And I would hear stories from my parents growing up about what that was like. And even at a young age, I could see how that kind of lifestyle affected them. And I could see the kind of, abuse and things that they had to go through at a young age. So that scared me. As a kid, that scared me because all I could think of was, is this some kind of hereditary thing? I'm going to hit a certain age and I'm automatically going to become an alcoholic. I was only about half right on that because it is hereditary, but it took a little while for me. So I didn't even have my first drink until I was probably in high school, probably 16 years old, 17 years old. Um, that isn't to say that I didn't have the characteristics of an alcoholic before that. So as a young person, I was very restless. I was very irritable, and I was very discontented. And those are the three things that we talk about in recovery programs that are like the hallmarks of an alcoholic.
Mhm.
I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I felt like I didn't know how to talk to people. I would have friends, but I never felt like I fit in any certain friend group. Um, so when I first got introduced to alcohol, which I believe is at a party when I was in high school, first time I took a drink, first thing I noticed was how horrible it tasted. But then about 30 seconds to a minute later, I started to get this warm feeling, right? As I kind of got the drink, started to feel at ease a little bit. I started to feel cool. I started to feel like I could talk to people. Now, these were things I didn't feel like before then. And so it was kind of that light bulb moment that went off, which was, oh my gosh, this is the feeling that I've kind of been missing all along. And I feel like to some extent, I've kind of been chasing that original feeling all these years. It was that initial feeling of feeling like that. Um, and so, it didn't go from 0 to 60 right away. I still was mindful of the fact that I had a family history of this and needed to kind of watch out. But it's a progressive thing. So it goes from drinking, maybe once every couple months to once a month to once every 2 weeks. And you're also at that age, I went up to college where drinking is very not only accepted as promoted, right?
Mm.
So I went to Indiana University, which at the time I was there was the number one party school in the country. So for a young person who was just getting into drinking, I mean, it was like Disney World for me. And the thing that really kept me from being reflective about my drinking at that point was I didn't have a whole lot of consequences. Um, I was good in school. I never got arrested. I never. There's all these things that you imagine for an alcoholic, these kind of rock bottoms. I didn't have any of those. And I was very much a functioning alcoholic. But that was around the time that I noticed things starting to progress. So, that was around the first time I started to drink to blackout, where I didn't know what was going on the night before. That was around the first time that I noticed I was drinking by myself. It went from drinking socially to I'm bored, so I'm going to drink. And then it went to, I'm driving drunk. It's not far, but I'm getting from here to there a little bit drunk. And
Mhm.
because I had no consequences for that, there was really, like I said, nothing to reflect on because I thought I was handling things the way I needed to. Um, ended up graduating without any of those consequences and kind of got smacked in the face by reality, which was, I don't know what I'm going to do in life now. I got the degree, but I don't know what I want to do. And I had gone to school for radio and television. That was my passion at the time. I was was a big fan of talk radio in Chicago growing up, and I used to drive around and listen to all the talk radio guys, and that was sort of my thing. And so I thought, there's no reason I can't do that, and so moved back to Chicago, started applying for internships, and I got one at WGN in the city. So WGN, huge station. It's like
Yeah.
the number one station in Chicago, and
Yeah.
so it was exciting for me. That was very exciting. It was all the people I grew up listening to, and I was smack dab in the middle of it. And at
Wanna
that
pause
time,
right there 1 second, Jared, because one of the things that I was thinking about when you were sharing was, um, how many people just float through college and float through high school and college, and just can make it if you're functioning. And a lot of people don't look at it as a problem. And so when should you know that substance use is a problem? And I shouldn't say becoming a problem, because in my brain, substance use is a problem, period.
sure,
But for many people, it's social. Like you said, you went from drinking socially to then, and it's a big thing. And now, of course, marijuana is like the thing to do no matter what. You know what I mean? And
yes,
I just don't even, but that's a whole nother story. But when should it be an awareness that, hey, this is not a social thing. This is something that I am just getting used to.
yeah, absolutely. And it kind of is different for everybody. In my work and personal life now, when I'm working with people who are still suffering from substance use, especially if they're younger, um, they're the only ones that can really identify if they think they have a problem or not. And I know that sounds a little wishy-washy, but it's true, because for some of them, a problem is how I defined it for me, which was I had no consequences. So when you don't have consequences, that reflection isn't there. I try to talk to people, especially young people, about the manageability of their life. Do they feel like they're barely hanging on? We do look at the physical stuff, like how many times a week are you drinking? The real important one is, if you try to stop, can you stay stopped? And this is like on their own. And really, that's the one that kind of puts the light bulb off over some of their heads, which is, I try to stop and I can't, because now they kind of have that craving, they have that obsession with going back and having another one. But I always say to the young people I work with, I don't envy them, because trying to get clean at a young age is difficult, especially just because of how, like I said, accepted it is to binge drink at a young age. It's almost expected of them.
Right. It's something that is just common. And that's why I asked, and I know everyone is different, but sometimes, people think that, oh, I'll be okay, because there are people that are functioning, going to work every day, literally, that are substance use have substance use disorders, and they won't own it. And I guess that's why, it's so important that if you're watching today, Jerry's story is so key to understanding with compassion and grace, to say, hey, these are some of the symptoms, these are some of the things you should look for, and the awareness. And I want to go and dive into this a little bit, because we heard this
Sure.
yesterday about sobriety is different than recovery. I really wanted you to speak to that, because that stood out to me so huge, because there, just because you're sober doesn't mean you are in recovery. Is that pretty much? So let's talk about that just a little bit.
Sure. So that phrase to me speaks on a couple of different levels. So and I've heard that phrase before, and it is pretty accurate. So sobriety just means that I am refraining from using something. So if that's the in my case, opiates or alcohol, that doesn't mean that I'm recovered in any kind of way, shape, or form. Recovery is a lot more than just abstinence from using something. Recovery to me speaks to a whole bunch of different aspects in a person's life, right? To me, recovery speaks to being emotionally sober, not having our feelings and our emotions take control of us anymore. It means being recovered from anger issues. It means being recovered from all these resentments and this guilt and this shame. To me, that's what recovery speaks to, because I can stop using, but that doesn't mean that the stuff that I was using to hide is going to go away. Because when
Oh,
I
that's
was using,
good. That's so, so good. Say that again. Say that again.
so I said I can stop using drugs or alcohol, but that doesn't mean that the things I was using to hide will go away. They're still going to be there, and in most cases, they come back even stronger. Because the reason, you hear this a lot, which was, my problem was not a drug problem. The drugs were the solution to my problem. My problem was internal. I had a hole in my soul, and I had a whole lot of emotions and feelings I couldn't control. And the best way to control those was to use.
Mm,
So when I got sober, those things are still sitting there inside me. So, that phrase to me, which is recovery, is about recovering a whole lot of different aspects in your life. Drugs and alcohol is just the very first step.
yeah. I wanna dive a little bit. Thank you for sharing that. And a lot of people don't realize that recovery starts at the heart, and then you can then when you actually stop using, us having substance abuse. And that's the other thing I was gonna say, which I want to get into that, but I want to
Sure.
mention something else because there's appropriate terminology these days to not speak to substance abuse but substance use disorder. Or even I heard that you shouldn't say homelessness, you should say people who live without homes.
Or yeah,
Um,
or unhoused, or
or
yeah, there's a few different yes.
and it's like you want to be respectful, but I don't know why that is, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But I wanted to say that so the substance use disorder of opioids and
Mhm.
how easy it is to fall into that trap. Let's talk about that a little bit. What made you
Yes.
decide to use opioids?
So the very first time I was exposed to opioids was after college, and I'm working at the radio station, but I'm also doing some bartending to make some extra money because living in Chicago is expensive.
Yeah.
So I was making some extra money. These bars and the bartending is where I got exposed to a lot of drugs for the first time. If anyone out there listening or watching has worked in the restaurant industry, it's everywhere. I don't care which restaurant it is; it's everywhere. And I was offered some pills one day, which I hadn't done before. And kind of out of boredom, I decided to try it. And if the first time I tried alcohol was this warm, great sensation, the first time I had pills, specifically opiates, it felt like that was my reason for existence. It felt like it was like the perfect drug for me. And I still believe that. I still feel like there's something in my brain chemistry that's just wired for that particular drug. And once I really took pills for the first time, it really was off to the races just with that stuff. I almost stopped drinking completely, and made it my mission to try to obtain and use opiates. And that went on for a while. And again, I was able to lack serious consequences, so I didn't see what the issue was. The first time I really had an oh kind of oh no moment was the first time I found out what withdrawal was. So what withdrawal from opiates was.
Mm,
I obviously knew about addiction, and growing up, you see rock stars and stuff have heroin issues, and you hear about this stuff. But uh, I had been using these pills for probably about 2 months straight, and then there was a first day where I couldn't get a hold of them, and at first I didn't really think much about it, and then about a few hours into the day, I start to feel kind of sick, right? I start to feel like I've got some flu-like symptoms. Start to feel like I'm sweaty. I start to feel just not great, and that feeling continued, and it got worse. So, for those who haven't experienced this, withdrawal from opiates, the way I describe it to people is it's the worst flu you've ever had that's combined with like a waves of panic attacks. So imagine just feeling as sick as you did, at your sickest, but also imagine just this panicky feeling. You want to jump out of your skin. You're sensitive to light, temperature. You can't eat anything. It really is a living hell when you're going through it.
mm,
And so the first time I felt that, that's when, for the rest of my life, using opiates became mainly a maintenance thing. At that point, I wasn't using to really get high anymore. Even though I was getting high, I was using just to not feel sick. And that's the struggle that so many of my brothers and sisters who have opiate issues deal with. It ceases to become fun anymore, and it becomes just a maintenance thing. You don't want to wake up sick. And that's the struggle, and that's the trap that a lot of people fall in, especially young people, which is they're introduced to the pills first. Pills are still kind of socially acceptable. You can get them from a doctor. It's not like you're going straight out to start using heroin or fentanyl. Pills are the gateway, especially for young people. And so that was my first kind of entrance into using opiates and how I got into that part.
So, and then I just want you to list some opiates, because sometimes people don't know. I heard one of my sisters telling her daughter, she was like, I don't feel good. I need another, you know, pill. And she was like, why do you need another pill? She's like, no, you don't. Go lay down for a little while. And even the simpleness, and I guess because I'm in recovery, I normally wouldn't think nothing of it, but she's a healthcare professional, and so hearing her say it and knowing that I'm working in recovery and hearing about opiates and the different ways you can get subtly addicted to opiates, it really is like, oh, that's you thinking you're just taking a pain pill, but it
Mhm.
becomes a part of you. So let's just list a few of them. So, viewers and moms and dads can kind of just be aware of, if you have an injury, your kid, that they can become addicted.
Yeah, so the main kind of gateway ones, the ones that I was exposed to, are like you said, usually given out for an injury or maybe some light pain management. So pills like oxycodone, which is a very common one.
Yeah.
There's also uh, Norco. That's kind of what the generic version of that is. But even things that can be prescribed for smaller things, right? So codeine is another one. Codeine is one that a lot of young people get started on. Codeine, they'll prescribe to you for having a bad cough. Codeine shows up in cough syrup, so that's another kind of gateway one for a lot of people.
Oh,
And then it
really?
gets,
I didn't
yeah,
know.
so the cough syrup with codeine is kind of glamorized in the music industry. A lot of rappers started talking about, sipping on this codeine syrup, and it kind of became this glamorized thing. And now you're seeing more and more stories of, these poor kids had no idea what was in store for them for drinking this stuff for long enough. When they
Mm,
finally figure out what withdrawal is. So codeine's another one. Some stronger stuff too. Oxycontin was in the news for a while. That's a really strong one, but was showing up all over the place. And then the even stronger stuff. So fentanyl, which you kind of hear about in the news every day now,
yeah.
started out as a very strong drug for cancer patients. So that was something that was given out almost to people who were in constant pain, but you could still find. So these are the types of kind of gateway, opiate pills that kids might run into when they're younger.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about the recovery because that is why we're here today. And what you have such a victory story. And I would like, we only have a few minutes left. That went so fast. We only have a few minutes left, but in these short moments, I want to just share, first of all, that Jarret is, you can find him or you can email him at jarret.burton at serenityhouse.com, or you can go to serenityhouse.com, or you can go to the Facebook page, the DuPage Ross Facebook page, Facebook, and then dupageross.org. You can go because this is where you can get some help. And this is in the state of Illinois. But one of the things that you say, and you say you phrase this, you coined this phrase from someone else, but there should be nothing about us without us. And I hear recovery all in that. So let's just share a little bit about, why this phrase is so important to you.
So when I say that there should be nothing about us without us, I'm talking about programming, attitudes, philosophy towards people in recovery in our area, all across the country, but especially in Northern Illinois. I feel like in a lot of our counties, there's a lot of money being spent, and there's a lot of big ideas being thrown around about this is what people in recovery should have access to. This is what people in recovery should do. This, that. You know what? People in recovery should have a say on what their access to service looks like, and should have a say in what these programs look like.
Hmm.
So the programs that you and I run, like the ROSC, this is a program for us. This is a program for people in recovery. And so I don't make any big moves without talking to people in recovery about it,
That's
because that's the way it has to be. That's our philosophy deep down. And so yeah, I did take that quote from Faces and Voices of Recovery, but I should trademark it because I use it enough now.
Yes. So what was your journey of recovery? If you could give us the short version of
Yeah.
really how you got there.
Yep. I did what's called the revolving door of treatment. I think the numbers nowadays are it takes up to 7 or 8 times sometimes for treatment to stick. And that was me. Went in and out of detoxes and hospitals, and I'd have periods of sobriety and then go right back in. I tried therapy, I tried medication, I tried, everything. I tried everything under the sun. The one thing I didn't try was actually being honest about what I was feeling, and I wasn't honest about the type of recovery I was living. So when we talked about that recovery emotionally, recovery honestly, I wasn't doing that. I was too worried about what people thought how I looked and how, what my recovery looked like, and was I in control at all times. I had to finally give that up. Trying to recover with me at the wheel doesn't work, and so I had to turn it over to God, and that's what I did. And I was life got a lot easier after that. But it's not for trying. I think I clocked 8 or 9 treatment centers, all over the city, all over the suburbs. Like I said, I would get some periods of sobriety. The longest I had was a few years ago. I had about 4 years, but I had stopped doing the real work on myself, and I just assumed since it had been 4 years, I should be okay. It's not the case. I have a lifelong disease, and if I'm not working on it, it can snap back up really easily. And around that same time, I was kind of out of nowhere diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and immediately went into surgery and chemo and all of that. And that's tough news for anybody to hear. But for someone in recovery, when you hear at the very first doctor's meeting that you're looking like a 50-50 shot to make it, that's almost the voices in your head start. Well, if you're going to die, you might as well feel comfortable, right? You might as well be able to get high before you go. And
Oh,
that was the case. And I went back out and got high and beat cancer the first time, but I still had the substance use issue. Got re-diagnosed with stage 3 cancer again, and then had to go through about another year of chemo. And then about 4 years ago, because of the blessing of God, I got through. I got through cancer for the second time, and I still had the substance use issue. And so that was when I had I really had to reflect on that, right? Which is God brought me through this
yeah.
insane medical thing for the past 2 years. Why am I still using? And
'Cause he
once I kind of
definitely
was,
had a plan for your life. I mean, he was
yeah,
like, "Okay, knock you on the head one time. Okay, one more time. Okay, you have
yeah.
purpose in the earth, so you're gonna fulfill it." I love the
So
Lord.
once I had that, that conversation in my head, I realized that, you're right. I was put here to do something, and I recovered and got into this work, and it's very gratifying. There isn't a day that goes by I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And the main goal of my life is to help the people that are still struggling,
Yeah.
because I was them. I'm no better or worse than anybody still
Yes.
struggling.
Yes. That is so good. Well, kudos, congratulations, and I'm very thankful. And I'm thankful that you shared that, you surrendered to God and surrendered to the truth.
Yep.
And those two things are very key, I believe, in being recovered, going walking through the journey of recovery. Well, I know that you have many facets to where we can reach out to you and many branches, but the Serenity House is one of them. And I wanted you to just share
Yes.
briefly, what is the Serenity House?
Sure. So Serenity House is a place out in DuPage County. So we're in Addison specifically. And Serenity House is specializes in sober living and halfway houses for men and women. So we've been around since 1985. We started as a tiny 4-bedroom cottage house, and now we can bed up to 107 clients.
Wow.
So we get folks coming straight out of treatment, so with a little bit of time, sobriety time, and we help them get back on their feet. We provide programming and counseling for them, but we also help them get back out into the world. We help them figure out how to work again, how to work a job. We help them figure out how to pay bills, how to talk to their family. All those things I mentioned at the beginning, all those parts of a person's life that I think is recovery, we help them with that.
Yeah.
And we also have a series of 3-quarter houses where they can stay for up to 2 years, because we really believe that recovery takes a little while.
Yeah.
It's not a 28 days and you're cured. So I love it. I'm a client. I came through the house in 2018, and I tell people that I hung around long enough, they kept giving me jobs. So I'm working my way up the ladder. But yeah, you can find out at serenityhouse.com. And I know you put my email up on there.
Yes.
If you know someone who's struggling, give me a call, and I'd be happy to try and work with them on.
Yes. Oh, wow. This has been so great, Jarret. Thank you so much for just being so transparent and sharing your story. And I know you do every day, but it's speaking to helping and healing someone somewhere. And so if you guys are watching, we definitely want you to share. Go back, listen to the replay, go to our YouTube channel and share the information with someone that you know needs help. You can reach out to Jarret at jarret.burton@serenityhouse.com, or go to the due page ross.org to get involved. We need involvement. We need council members. We need municipalities, healthcare professionals, law enforcement, political officials. We need the help so that we can get the word out there that there is hope and there is help, and we're on a road to recovery. And I just am so grateful that you came and shared your story today. Reach out to Jarret, you guys. Go to serenityhouse.com. Many people reach out to us. They're in DuPage County. Our Ross is in Will Grundy County. But there are Ross all over the state of Illinois, all over the world, really, but all over the state of Illinois if you're in the Chicagoland area. And if not, reach out to us if you're in an area globally that is not here, and we'll get the information for you. Jarret, are there any last words you have for everyone?
I just want to say I'm such a fan of what you're doing out with HLM. I love coming to your meetings, and I'm going to continue to. And I really like that you and I are able to not just think geographically, right? 2 different counties, but we're all working for the same thing. So let's help each other out. So thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. You guys reach out to Jarret for sure. Reach out to me. You all know where to find me. And until next time, make sure you share it with someone that there is a road to recovery. First of all, they have to surrender to God and then surrender to the truth. But help someone. We're all people with lived experience. No one is exempt from needing recovery in some area. All right. Thank you so much, Jarret.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Connecting vibe, connecting vibe, connecting vibe.